2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is, it's a 1-credit class.
That really sucks. Is it just once a week, then?
It's, it's once a week.
Yeah, that's probably...
But still 3 hours,
Yeah, 3 hours in a class.
For 1 credit.
Yeah, that's kind of stupid.
I've missed that class a couple times.
Yeah. But at least... Or do they have an attendance, like, you can't show up late?
It's goofy. That class is... It's like, I got marked off for...
I'm just here to talk.
Yeah. Well,
like that, I think that we were just hanging out, really.
Yeah.
Just bullshitting.
Yeah, that's all my podcasts are. It's just bullshitting, pretty much.
Nothing wrong with that.
Just, it's kind of fun, but then it's like, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do with it in the long term.
Yeah, I get that. It's kind of like, it's one of those things, it's like, because I've wanted to get into podcasting too, but
yeah,
it's not really, I don't know exactly what I would do. I don't know who, like, the thing is, it's tough with a podcast because you almost have to have, like, a platform before you start it, it seems like.
Yeah.
It's like really, like, be successful quickly at least.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's not, like, you don't see a ton of podcasts out there that are, like, from the ground up. That are, I mean, there's a few.
Well, there's the ones, I think a big thing is with the people trying to do the podcast like how I am.
Yeah.
Is we don't have a special theme or, like, thing that you discuss. And a lot of people, like, listen to the ones that are very specific. Like, I know my girlfriend listens to, like, all the people that do the horror stories and, like, things like that. Or, like, there's, like, fishing and hunting ones. And a lot of people listen to those. But I don't have, like, a particular subject matter.
Like, there's this small podcast. It's called Threads and Dreads. It's, like, this guy, he's, like, a big thrifter. And they'll do, like, they'll do, like, sneaker-themed ones. Those are usually the ones that I listen to. But, I mean, it's nothing, like, they're nothing big or anything, but, yeah, they I just listen to them on Spotify when I'm, like, I get, like, notifications for them, and I'm like, I guess I'll listen to that today.
Yeah, I listen to Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah, like, Joe Rogan, and I listen to Flagrant 2. It's Andrew Schultz and Akash Singh, his name is? I don't know for sure, but I like him. Those guys are pretty funny. They just had one with Alex Jones the other day, which was fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah, that dude's insane.
Yeah,
it's interesting to listen to, like, different people that, like, that's part of the reason I didn't want to have, like, a specific subject. Is because I want to have, like, different people.
Well, that's what I like about Joe Rogan. Like, one day you have, like, a scholar on there, and the next day you got this guy who smokes a bunch of weed and's been in a movie or two or whatever.
Or you get the combination, like the Elon Musk episode.
It's like just insane. Crazy.
Yeah, but it's always interesting just to see, like, different people. He has a lot of comedians that aren't particularly big on there too. Yeah, and that's always good because I enjoy, like, comedians. They're fun.
Well, I mean, and the nice thing about comedians who aren't big is, like, it's just a fresh personality. Yeah. So, like, you kind of, it's a new experience. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I've watched a lot of it's just Joey Diaz and Joe Rogan and maybe another comedian. Like, I've watched a lot of those. Yeah. But, like, it's kind of nice to have, like, someone new every once in a while, too. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I don't know where I'm going, like, with the podcast exactly. I know there's, like, a few things. I haven't even been doing it a year. Yeah. I got, like, a decent amount of views, but I'd like to definitely get a lot more.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the one thing. It's like, I feel like once you build, like, a catalog of videos, like, there's always a chance that, like, one's going to be, like, the one that... And once you do it, like, once people see, like, oh, like, this, like, he makes, like, a good podcast, that looks like a good time. Yeah. Like, then you start getting guests who's going to share it more, and they have a bigger audience, and it's just...
Yeah. That's one thing. I want to get people that are kind of building themselves, because it gives both of us an opportunity to get our names out there. Like, they share it, I share it, we both kind of intertwine, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, that's a plus for everyone, really. Because that's the thing, it's like, the biggest thing that I've, like, struggled with getting into business is networking. Yeah. And it's just like, honestly, it's really just because, like, I didn't realize how important it was until recently. Yeah. So,
that's true. Yeah. Yeah, but you've always, I mean, going to sneaker shows and stuff, you've always been, like, trying to...
I mean, I'm, like, a social person. Yeah. But, like, I'm not good at, like, making long-term connections, I guess.
Yeah. Or like business connections, those are a little bit
Yeah, and
different.
I'll make, this is the thing, like with shoes, it just makes everything easier for me, because like I can make a connection that's like almost, it's like in shoes it just makes it easier for me to make a connection because we both have similar interests.
Yeah.
So like that, I'm decent at it, especially when I'm at shows. But like I haven't had a show since last February now.
That kind of sucks.
So it's like I've kind of just, I had to like make a big transfer into selling more online.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad, because now like once everything's not necessarily back to normal, but back to a more normal state, then I have a lot more platforms to sell on, a lot more diversity.
Yeah.
So
That's good. So you're not stuck in one thing, because there's like a lot of people we've seen is the thing you do can be done differently, but then if you combine the two, then if one goes down, then you have a separate. It's like,
and like a lot of like the businesses that have failed during COVID, a lot of them are just the ones that just rely on like in-person sales and like personal conversion rate, rather than like they have a diversify their platforms, and like they're able to sell on eBay, they're able to sell on like Etsy or Depop or whatever, and like have multiple streams of revenue coming in from different sources, even if it's for the same business.
Yeah.
So
I guess we'll start here. You want to explain like a little bit, just for if anybody's watching, like how you got into it and like what exactly it is you do.
So basically, my name is Bailey Campbell. I've been selling shoes now for 6 years. Actually longer than that. Bad math. 8 years.
Yeah.
Selling shoes for 8 years. Recently, I've probably say in the past 3 years, I've gotten into doing clothing. So I'll do like exclusive clothing like Supreme, Palace, like bigger brands like that. And then I also do vintage clothing. So I started getting into vintage clothing very heavily like in the past 2.5 years. And that's like just a lot of thrifting, looking for like early 90s pieces. And honestly, a lot of that stuff is just stuff that I like. So like I'll go out and let's say like I've always been into sports and stuff. So like the old sports pieces and stuff like that is a lot of the stuff that I go after, even though like I'm learning more about it like as I go, and there's a lot of money to be made in it. So
it's resale of shoes and
so like the sneakers that I sell is like exclusive sneakers. So you're looking at a lot of like Jordans, Yeezys, stuff like that. I do new and used. So the pre-owned stuff is a little more. It's like a niche market. Like not everyone wants to buy a pair of used shoes, but for the people that do, there's like a lot of benefit in it because you're getting a discount on it, and you can still sell it because pre-owned still holds their value in exclusive shoes.
Yeah.
So like
it's like a collector's
item. Yeah, it's one of those things, and that's what most of the shoes that I buy, honestly, I try to buy used just because like I look at everything from like a monetary perspective, like my personal expenses. Like I can wear better shoes if I buy used rather than buying everything new and then losing more money on them long term.
Yeah.
So that's usually one of my sales pitches to people to try out buying used shoes, because honestly, like I growing up, I shopped at Plato's Closet and I went to Goodwills and stuff just like because I like finding deals.
Yeah.
So I always cared about how I dressed, like even through like middle school and stuff. So I was definitely I'm like a frugal person, and I feel like that carries over good into business, because like if you're frugal with the way you buy stuff, like you can also like give your customers good deals too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's basically what I do right now. I'm looking into opening a store. It's just a matter of finding a good space and decent rent. That way I can have a storefront, get like more of the community involved with it, and probably expand into doing more stuff with local brands as well.
Yeah.
Like I have a buddy that has a local streetwear brand called Timeless. It's Timeless Ohio on Instagram. But yeah, he's like I just really like his vision, I guess. And there's a lot of like local people who like, I mean, someone like who isn't very involved with it or isn't networking like frequently, they don't realize that, oh, this is like a local brand that's actually like someone that went to high school with some of my buddies or something. Like it's someone who's they rely on people like buying their products to make money.
Yeah.
So I want to make a push, if I do open a store, to have a lot of local brands in there on top of doing like the vintage and the exclusive sneakers and streetwear.
Yeah.
So
That's The one thing is it's really good. I found it in myself. It's good to network with local, not only because like COVID happened, but I found that important like throughout a lot of things. You got to make business connections with people that are local and small and that want to grow, not with bigger businesses that are, they have their following, their standing, whatever.
Yeah, and honestly, it's actually one of the things I've taken away from going to school is like in my business classes, you learn about like equity, and like the community has equity in your business. So if you can benefit the community, they'll be happier with you, and they'll benefit you. Yeah. So it's kind of like, it's like a trade-off, I guess. Like, and especially with networking locally, like if you can network, you can support local businesses. Those local businesses are gonna support you, and it's like a never-ending like domino effect of like you promote supporting local businesses and it'll likely like fall back on you. And another, like, it's your community at the end of the day. Like, would you rather support like some billionaire or would you rather support Joe that lives down the street? Like, it's just one of those things.
That's the one thing that I think people find hard about shopping local, supporting local businesses, networking with them is that sometimes their prices are more expensive. But in turn, you're supporting yourself, you're supporting your community, and they're growing, so eventually their prices will come down the more you support them.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, it's like, if you're a penny pincher, I mean, I understand why you want to shop at Walmart and you want to shop, like, wherever you're going to find the best deal on stuff. Like, that's definitely understandable. But, like, for me, as I've gotten older, I've kind of learned that it's okay to spend a little bit more money if you support what they're doing with it. And like honestly, you look at like what Walmart might be making. Well, that's not a good comparison because that's like more of a grocery store. But like, let's say like a brand like Nike would be making on a product versus like what I would be making selling like a vintage T-shirt. Like our margins are probably like Nike's making more, and you're getting something that's not as good for the environment because they're producing it constantly. Or you could buy a vintage T-shirt from someone locally who resells it, and you're doing something good for the environment, and you're supporting a local business.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's one of those things. It's like if you can, the more you can do to support local brands, like it's just great for everyone involved, really.
Yeah, and another thing about that is sometimes you pay for quality. I've learned that is some people are like, oh, that's really overpriced, but in the long term, it might last you 10, 15 years more. So it's better to save in the fact that in your long term. Like
even like in the past like 10 years or so, like the amount of like mom and pop stores you see like going out of business and stuff, like it's sad. And it's like, I mean, you could blame that on whatever. You can blame that on, oh, well, they didn't know how to adapt as a business or whatever. But like, me personally, like I would rather if I need work done on my car, like my dad's buddy works on cars, like I'm gonna take it to my dad's buddy rather than taking it to a shop, because I know A, he's gonna be honest with me, because you're going to a brand new shop to get your car worked on, you don't really know what they're gonna do, and B, you're supporting someone who's like, you know that money's going towards raising their kids or something, like it's going towards a good cause.
Yeah, definitely. Where do you think like the COVID transitions are going to, like, do you think some of the things that these small businesses are doing will carry into the future? Like we talked about, they're learning different ways, but do you think like, I don't know, I guess how do you think they're, because obviously a lot of them will, but do you think like the curbside pickup and the delivery systems are going to continue?
So where I'm at with that, I think COVID's definitely going to have an effect long term on like what retail is. I think that there's like certain types of businesses who like in a storefront space will actually thrive post COVID, because like in certain like clothing and stuff like that, there's not really like, I don't know, like there's not a lot of places that provide you a good in-store experience, I guess.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of things, like you look at Amazon Prime and stuff, like those type of businesses will thrive, and small businesses should diversify to the point where like you're able to have revenues coming in from different sources, but at the same time it's like you kind of have to choose your battles, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stores out there who the curbside pickup, I think that'll definitely be like that'll stick around for a while just because the convenience on it's huge.
Yeah.
And like if you think about it, like there's a lot of people out there who are very busy with their work lives, raising kids, whatever, and their ability to get on their Walmart app and say, "Oh, this is what I need from the grocery store," and then go pick it up, not have to run through the store for a couple things.
Yeah.
Like I think that's great, but like it's a great idea, and that should stick around.
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised if it doesn't because Walmart's they're smart. Like
Yeah.
they realize, oh, this is probably going to bring us more customers, so we need to keep this.
Yeah.
In terms of other COVID things, like I don't know, like I really like U.S. Postal Service has been taking a lot of hate because a lot of the Christmas packages, which I had many issues with them, and I converted over to using UPS now, and like it sucks because you want to support the post office, but at the same time it's like I can't have my customers taking that falling back on them.
Yeah.
So, and their package is getting delayed. So like at the end of the day, you have to choose your battles. Like, do I want a good customer service for my customers?
Or
Do I want to support them?
Yeah.
So it's it's one of those things. Like when you're in business, you kind of have to pick your battles.
Yeah. That's. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing. The thing about the whole COVID thing is like you look at Texas opening back up and stuff like that, and it's like you want your state to open back up just for the sake of businesses.
Yeah.
Because I said I like seeing local businesses thrive. And there's a lot of restaurants and stuff that like I really enjoyed pre-COVID, and some of them aren't even open yet.
Yeah, or some of them have just went away completely.
Yeah, and they just just their inability to keep up with the protocols that they had to follow.
Yeah.
And like they're like, oh well, we can't afford to keep up with this, so we're just gonna have to shut down.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty sad. And honestly, like it was kind of one of those things that I feel like even pre-COVID there was kind of a transition being made to like more people like doing carry out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which after it now I'm sure like going forward there's probably going to be a lot of businesses that offer carry out
that didn't before.
Which I mean, depending on what type of person you are, that's good for everyone really because there's a lot of times where I don't really feel like going out to dinner, but if I can get some good food, take it home, like I'd do that.
Yeah.
But definitely like the going out to eat experience, like I couldn't imagine living in like I know in New York kind of like they opened back up like outdoor dining and stuff like that, but it's just like
some of their rules in bigger places like LA and New York City, it's just a lot of it doesn't make sense. I mean, it does and it doesn't at the same time.
It does. Well, it's like one of those things. Like you were saying, you watch a lot of Joe Rogan. Like Joe Rogan says, like it makes a lot of sense that you walk into a restaurant, you can take your mask off to eat, but like in the bathroom, you gotta have your mask on. But like you go back down, sit down at the table, you can take your mask off, and it's just like it's one of those things. It's like it's almost exhausting. Just like the amount of you have to do this, and then another thing is like I understand that like people. There's people out there who just want to refuse to wear masks, and there's people out there who like are very like everyone should wear masks.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like if you're wearing a mask, that's probably gonna help to protect you. Yeah. And if you decide not to wear a mask, then that's what you're gonna do. Yeah. And that's why like in Texas, I'm like the government shouldn't have to tell you, oh, you have to wear a mask all these times, and shouldn't have to tell businesses you have to shut down because of this, this, and this. And it's like sometimes you just gotta like let people govern themselves a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things. It's like, and honestly, like the whole everything with that, like going into COVID, and they're like, oh, you have to do this, this, and this, and it's like very strict regulations, and like the one's tweeting out, oh, but if you get the cases down to this much, then we'll lift these regulations. And I'm like, dude, like at some point there needs to be a little less government, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing in theory, but it doesn't always like a lot of things are good in theory.
Yeah.
Like, it's good that there's regulations because there is people that will rebel or people that won't listen, right?
Yeah.
But then when are you overstepping? Like, I think when you do put the rules in, then people want to rebel more.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, where is
people just in general, they don't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things and I feel like that's just kind of that's where I'm at too. I'm just like tired of being told like, oh, like I forgot my mask in my truck. I got to turn around and get that rather than just running into the store and grabbing my gallon of milk and getting out of there or whatever.
Yeah.
So like it's just one of those things. It's like at some times it just gets like exhausting.
Yeah.
But I mean that's the thing. Like I mean I go to the gym. Like nobody in the gym's wearing a mask.
Yeah. Or you have to wear it in, but
but as soon as you get in there, you can take it off. It's just like whatever.
Some things just don't make much sense.
They don't. That's the world we live in.
Yeah. And like I don't understand the part of wearing it in your car by yourself. Like I've seen people do that, and I'm like,
honestly, for some people, it just might be habit at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had a year of it already, so maybe they're just
I don't care that people wear masks. Like I'm not like, oh, don't wear it.
Oh yeah,
But,
yeah. I just feel like that should be your own decision at some times. Yeah. Like I don't know. That's really where I'm at with it. I don't like because my thing is I'm a big I'm not a big government person, but I just feel like the world would be a much better place if you just let people do what the hell they want sometimes.
So, see, that's like a thing. There's such a gray area in that, though. Like, you need government, but also you don't need too much government.
Yeah,
and that's what we've always been fighting, really.
Yeah, and it's like, for me personally, like, I support certain things that one side supports and certain things that another side supports. Yeah. And certain things that government in general just doesn't support.
Yeah.
Like, I personally think that, like, weed should be legalized in all states.
Yeah.
And, like, on a federal level. And that's just one of the things. I'm like, I think that drug is a lot, like, healthier for people than, like, a lot of the drugs that are legal.
Yeah.
So, and it's one of those things, it's like, everybody has an argument for it.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
So, and that there's a lot of people that could agree with me. There's a lot of people that could disagree with me.
Yeah, I think the benefit of that is there's so many benefits, honestly.
That's the thing. I think the benefits. The only negative thing about it is that the pharmaceutical companies are going to lose money, and that's why it's not legalized.
I mean, that's I see why people say, because what most people who support marijuana being legalized, they say it's never killed anybody. But there's also not data on that, like, being legalized everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's a good chance that it could.
Yeah, it's like, I personally, I see it eventually being legalized, but, I mean, I don't know if you've looked into it at all. Like, there's already a lot of people with a lot of money invested into marijuana becoming legal.
Yeah, there's stocks,
Yeah, I'm saying, like, the way marijuana, like, once it's legalized, it's going to be the same thing as a pharmaceutical.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, like, in today's world, everything is subsidized, and you have, like, people in government are getting paid, and I forget what the term for it's called, but, like,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's like congressmen, they're getting lobbied.
Yeah,
there's people lobbying the government to vote in their favor.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, money just rules everything. So
yeah, and then you look at how much it impacted the economy in California or Colorado or any of the states who legalized it recreationally.
And for someone like me, like, I try to stay away from that stuff just because I personally, like, what am I gonna do about it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have the money to change anything.
You have to follow the law, but you also, you support it.
Yeah,
that's
like
where I'm at.
that, and it's like it's tough because I see there's, like, for me personally, there's a lot of things that bother me, but I know there's nothing I can do about it, so I just try to let go of it.
Yeah.
Like, and just let it go.
Yeah, because it'll work itself out in one way or another, and there's not much, like, people. There is a thing, alright, this is another big topic, I guess, is about the gas going up right now. And I see the post on Facebook, and it was like, I don't ever check gas prices because what am I going to do about it? And it's like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? There's so many things that go on in the background of these big economic businesses, essentially, and we don't really the average person doesn't play a part in that.
Yeah, and it's like, it's one of the things, like, there's a lot of people who aspire to, that's what they want to be able to do in life, is, like, have have a role, like, or be able to be an influence on something.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I was younger, don't get me wrong, like, I was a very political person. Like, I honestly, when I was probably 14, 15 years old, like, I'm going to be a politician one day.
Yeah.
And I have totally lost interest in that because I just feel like everything is, like, I just want to go out and enjoy my life.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, like, I feel like as soon as you get into politics or something like that, that kind of, like, it just kind of slows down everything else in your life.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with that at all times.
I think that is with anything that you're heavily involved in, like, I don't know, like, being a business owner, that's going to heavily impact the way you view certain things.
Yeah.
And, like, anything you do.
And
really.
honestly, I feel like that doesn't affect me as much because I have always, like, my grandparents have a farm, my dad has his business, like, I have a couple uncles with businesses, so, like, there's a lot of people around me that I've kind of, like, when I come into, like, coming out of high school and stuff, like, I knew that my end goal was going to be owning a business. So I've kind of always thought like a business owner.
Yeah.
And that's, like, I honestly feel like, well, when I got into shoes, like, I got into shoes, like, my freshman year of high school. So it's one of those things, it's like, I was, like, selling shoes my sophomore year, and, like, I knew, like, I understood how a business works. Like,
just
as,
being
like,
around it.
but not even, like, to, like, not, I don't understand, or at that point in time, I didn't understand how a business worked, like, fully, but I understand the concept.
Yeah.
I understand profit. I understand revenue. I understand that if you increase your revenue and you're not spending as much money on expenses, then you're going to make more money.
Yeah.
So, like, just like the simple aspects of a business is what I understood then, and I already kind of thought like a business owner. But obviously, if I have a store or something, that's going to be even more time consuming and take a lot of my effort out. But it's like one of those things, to me, it's worth it.
Yeah. There's definitely, like, different avenues within being a business owner. I mean, there's people who want more profits.
Yeah.
But then there's also people who want to build, like, an empire almost.
Yeah.
So they're getting more profits, but then they're taking their profits and moving it here. Or they're not necessarily, like, they're keeping up the quality or getting better quality, so their stuff is costing more money so that they're getting more revenue. Not necessarily they're decreasing their costs.
It's like a lot of that's just like, I mean, it comes down to a point when, like, you're starting a business. Do you want to reinvest everything and try to build that into, like, the business that you want it to be, or do you want to skim profits and maybe, like, take the risk of slowing the growth of your business?
Yeah.
That's the way I looked at it, at least. And I've always, like, reinvested the majority of, like, what I would make. And that's another reason why, like, I mean, growing up, like, I always collected shoes, like, through high school and college and stuff. So, like, I never made money on it just because, like, if I did sell a pair of shoes, like, it would go to buying another pair of shoes.
Yeah.
So that's the nice thing is, like growing up, it was a hobby. Like, I didn't even have to have a business or anything because I wasn't really making money off of it.
Yeah.
But now it's gotten to a point where it's like, I need to, like, prioritize it and be like, this is a business. I got to treat this as a business. And now I got to file taxes and everything like that. It's a jolly old time.
I mean, that's good, though. Like,
it's good. It's good. Like, that's the thing. Like, I didn't actually make money this past year just because I've spent so much on inventory, and then, like, going into that store, like, I invested a lot in that. So I've actually, like, over the year I've lost money, but that's okay because, like, when my taxes next year, I won't have to pay for all that I made because I can claim a loss this year.
Yeah.
So and a lot of that's, I mean, once you get into taxes and everything, that's a whole nother thing. And it's like, I'm trying to figure it out because this is my first time. Like, before, I just give my W-2 to my parents and their tax guy does it for $100, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I'm done with that. But now as a business owner, you got to worry about so much stuff, and then I'm the only person. It's not like I have an accountant or anything. So, like, I got to go through and, like, record each transaction, record each buying, like, how did they pay for it, how did I pay for it, and all this stuff, just so I can have everything down to a T for my accountant, or whoever does my taxes, so they don't hate me.
Yeah, that's So what are you looking forward to this year in the business, or what's your long term, I guess?
I would say, so, like, I really want to open, like, a store, like I said, with sneakers, streetwear, vintage, and local brands. And like kind of combine everything, because I mean everything kind of falls on like into a streetwear category.
Yeah.
That's like really like the goal is to open a store, just because like don't get me wrong, I understand that there's probably more profitable methods of running my business than opening a store,
Yeah.
but it's just one of those things that I've always wanted to do. And now it's like, since I was in a store for a little bit, I understand like there's so much benefit in it. And like for me personally, like there's just like the community aspect, like,
Yeah.
because I didn't have that for so long, not going to shows. So now that I had the store, I'm like, oh, like this is, it almost feels like it's the closest thing to having family around, is having people with similar interests of you to you.
And that'll grow your career, I think, longer term. That'll grow your career in more aspects than just that, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, it's one of those things. It's like, for me personally, like I always felt like there's like I'm never like super satisfied with what I'm doing. So I feel like in shoes, like I always felt like I would be in shoes until I was like 25, 26, and then like move on to something else.
Yeah.
But now I've gotten to a point where I've fallen in love with it. Like I like what I'm doing, and I feel like that once I'm like 30, like 29, 30, 31, like somewhere in that area, if I'm starting a family or something like that, I might hire out like some of the work if I still have a store and keep the business going, but I just might not be as involved at that point.
Yeah, and it's just growth. You know, you'll hire somebody at some point.
Yeah, and that's and that's another thing too. Like I want to do the best that I can to like maintain like the homely vibe of a store.
Yeah.
And that's why I was looking at mall space, and my buddy's like, you're going to lose that. Like as soon as you go into a mall, it just becomes business.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that's like, I'm looking for like a standalone storefront or something like that's something with decent foot traffic that I can kind of like get a decent rate for rent on. And that's my goal probably for this year. If I don't figure that out this year, then I'm kind of like, I don't know. It's the thing is like, because I graduate college in May.
Yeah.
So I mean, a couple months from now, like I'll have a business degree, and like I'd probably be able to get a good job somewhere. And it's one of those things like, I know if I don't have a store, then I can still sell stuff on the side.
Yeah.
So like there's definitely, it's not like as soon as I graduate I'm done.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It's kind of deciding where you want to go.
It's really deciding like my career.
Yeah.
Because like if like each one, it's like if I go into a job now and I start doing sales, like I might not have my own business until I'm 40, 50 years old.
Yeah.
But it really just depends.
Yeah.
Because I mean, and that's the thing, like you really, since I've owned a business, I understand that there's a lot more that goes into it. It's not just, oh, you had a good year, cool, like you might have made $100,000 this year.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot more that's like, oh, you made $100,000 this year. You're working 80 hours a week the entire year though,
Yeah.
and you didn't do much else.
And you're working at home, and you're working
constantly. You're working at home, and like it's just there's definitely, when you're a business owner, there's a lot that goes into it that you don't really realize until you are a business owner.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like you look at people with good jobs that they might be making $90,000-$100,000 a year at their job. I'm like, that doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, and they come home and
that's
the last thing on their mind.
And it's 9 to 5, and they can come home and hang out with their family when they're done. So like, it's definitely not like, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just for me personally, like I've always kind of been, I don't know, I've always kind of wanted to be against the grain, I guess.
Yeah.
So the temptation to just do it myself is like, it's huge.
I think a lot of people, at least our age, they want to be business owners, but they don't understand what all goes into that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I've seen people, they open up businesses and they're like they're worse off than where they were at a job.
Yeah, and honestly, it's like, I tell a lot of people, I'll be like, yeah, like, I actually work for myself. And they're like, oh, really? That's so cool. And I'm like, well, it's not as cool as you think it is.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's probably, I'd say, not 100% of people, but probably 90 to 95% of people want to have their own business and want to be like, yeah, I want to work for myself. But once you get into it, you realize that it's not all that it's cracked up to be. It's great. Don't get me wrong. Like, if I had a store and had a successful store and I was only working 60, 70 hours a week, I would be very happy.
Yeah.
But like, there's definitely a lot of ways to get like burnout, and there's a lot of ways. I mean, there's a lot of ways to fail.
Yeah, that's just the thing. People think when they go into business, they're like, oh, I can make my own schedule or whatever. But
Yeah.
you got to realize that you making your own schedule, say you only come in a couple of days a week, but you have a manager running the store, okay? But you realize you're doing numbers and you make more money when you're there running it. Why wouldn't you want to be there?
Yeah,
you know?
it's like, that's the thing. I mean, I think a lot of people who are business owners, they get caught up in the, like, you prioritize your business before everything.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things, like, honestly, when you're building a business, you have to do that.
Yeah.
But at a certain point in time, you can kind of separate yourself from that.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that, like, I'm glad that I'm aware of that now, because I'm the type of person who would, like, obsess over the business and be like, I need to, like, do everything I can do to make this the greatest thing that it can be.
Yeah.
Which I will, but I know that there's a certain point in time where I have to be able to trust other people to run the store.
Yeah.
And honestly, if it's from a business perspective, if you are the only person that can run your store, then yes, you may have built a successful business, but you didn't necessarily build a sustainable business.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, like, you have to break businesses down into, like, different sections, I guess.
Yeah.
So, like, there's, like, everything that goes into a successful business, like, the people go into it, like, the actual structure of the business goes into it, the ideas that the business have, and the customer base even. Like, because that's the thing, like, if you think about it, let's say your customer base is like a certain demographic, and that demographic is leaving. For example, in LA, there's a ton of sneaker stores in LA. Let's say like a lot of the people who are into like shoes are moving to Texas right now. Like, you're losing a lot of your demographic. So there's like that, like, it's not like just because you have a great idea and good people, your business is going to succeed.
Yeah.
Because there's more that goes into it.
Yeah, that is a very good point. Like, also, like, I don't know what I was going to say. It kind of just left my brain.
You're good. It's like, well, that's the thing. Like, a lot, like, people just, the thing about businesses, it's like,
That's what
it's
drives
simple.
your business.
It's simple, but it's complicated.
Yes.
So, like, from the outside looking in, it seems pretty simple. It seems like and honestly, I've definitely been the kind of person that I look at people's businesses. I'm like, oh, that guy's making like $200,000 a year, and he barely isn't doing anything. Like, he's working 40 hours a week, but there's not much that goes into that. Yeah. And then you hang out around him for a little bit, and you're like, oh shit, this guy works a lot.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's one of those things you just kind of like, the more you're around it, the more you have experience within different types of, like, I mean, really anything in life. Yeah. The more experience you get with it, the better of an idea you're going to have about it. And that's why I'm like, a lot of people just go to college and they don't know what they want to do, but they're like, oh, this sounds fun. Like, let's do art. Like,
doing it.
Yeah, let's do art. And then they get, like, after college, they go into, like, they're an art teacher or something, and they're like, this sucks.
Yeah.
So, like, and I'm like, I personally went to college, and my dad pulled me aside a couple weeks ago and apologized to me. He's like, he watches like a lot of the financial guys' videos, like the Rich Dad Poor Dad and a few other people. But he's like the worst. He said, the guy in the video, he said the worst thing you can do is make your kids go to college. And my dad was like really pushing me to go to college when I came out of high school, so I ended up doing it. And he's like, he came up apologizing to me, and he's like, I'm sorry I made you go to college. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I was watching this video earlier, and he said that's the worst thing you can do. I'm like, it's not. It's honestly not that bad.
It's not the worst.
It's not the worst, yeah. But it's like, a lot of people would be much better off going into like an apprenticeship program or something like that, and working like what many people consider hard labor to be. Isn't that hard. Yeah. It's work. Don't get me wrong, it's work.
It can be as hard as you want it to be.
Anyway, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I grew up working on my grandparents' dairy farm. Like, it's looking like from the outside, I tell people I worked on a dairy farm. They're like, oh, that must have been hard work. And I'm like, well, some days it was, but some days it wasn't. Like, some days it wasn't the hardest thing in the world. And honestly, like, I really think I learned a lot working on the farm, and I enjoy it now. Like, when I get to go there and work, like, I'll get to go help out on like a summer day. It's still like, I look forward to it. It's like, I miss this. Yeah. It's just like, there's something about working, like, a job like that, there's like a simple satisfaction to it. Especially when you're in something like more complicated, like running a business.
Yeah.
Like when you just go to like there's simple accomplishments. So like this is like you get to the farm, like this is what you have to do today. So you go and then you get that stuff done, and it's like I'm done for the
You
day.
succeeded.
Yeah, it's like there's like an end to it. And when you have a business, there's never really like an end to it unless you give yourself that.
Yeah.
So like a lot
You
of
gotta
people
make
like
your small goals. I was just talking about that with a guy that he's training for he's an accountant, but he was training for what is it? Oh, bodybuilding, to be a professional bodybuilder.
yeah.
And he's like, you have to make small goals, and if you got to make large goals too. You know, you
Yeah.
can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna be on the moon someday, and then never make the steps into it.
Yeah.
But you can't also have all these small goals and then never
There's
strive for more.
That's the thing. It's like the complicated thing to me at this point. Like I'm 21 years old. The complicated thing about life is that life is only what you make it. So like you can set yourself these wild goals, and like that are almost unattainable. And if you somehow attain them, you know you made it. Like you know you did great. But if you don't, then there's almost like a dissatisfaction that you're gonna
in
have.
yourself.
Yeah, so like a balance, really, like finding that you can really find balance in a lot of things, and like for me personally, like I look at like what I want to do with my business, and there's definitely days where I'm just like, ugh, like I didn't do enough today, and honestly, there's days where I may just be lazy and I like actually didn't do enough that day, but there's times where I busted my ass and barely got anything done, or like I didn't realize that this was gonna take that long, so now I didn't actually get done what I needed to do. So I feel like in life you just kind of have to realize that it's okay to have those days, because that just makes the good days what they are.
They're definitely. I was gonna say that too. There's definitely a balance to everything that you do. Like I don't know. There was something there too.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, it's so simple. Like even in like children. Like there's a balance. Like obviously you want your children to behave right, but you don't want them to think that everything they do is the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
So like you want to like, it's another thing, like you kind of have to choose your battles. It's like, well, my kid cussed today, so like when I cussed when I was little, I got my mouth washed out with soap.
Yeah.
So like honestly, based on the way I was raised, I'm like, well, I'm gonna wash my kid's mouth out with soap if they cuss, and they'll learn. But then again, like if they do something like, let's say they're carrying around a glass in the kitchen and they drop it on the floor and break it. I mean, I'll yell at them, but like I'm not gonna be like, hey, like get your mouth washed out with soap again. Like you kind of have. It's one of those things. It's like you have to realize that you don't have to. I don't. There's no like real like guidelines, I guess.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of make your own. You can make your own guidelines. You can make your own, like, you can kind of make life what you want it to be, and you can make anything what you want it to be based off of what you set your expectations to be for it.
Yeah, see, I'm the type of person is I have all these ideas, and sometimes my ideas are very unattainable, for instance, but they are. Like, if I were to do all the work and do this and that, they are obtainable. But if I didn't believe in them, they wouldn't, like, to another person, they're not realistic. So there's some point where you have to make these ideas, these dreams, whatever. You have to figure out how to get there. And a lot of that is realizing, like, making the realistic decisions. Like, you're not going to get here by magic. Like, so in a way, it's like you have to be realistic, but you also have to be able to dream. Like, I would hate for somebody to crush somebody's dreams. Like, that's the worst, is when somebody's like, you can't do that. There's no way.
And honestly, like, something like that, like, when I was first getting into shoes, like, my grandparents were really, like, they really, like, they questioned it. Because I was making pretty good money working at the farm, but all my money went into shoes.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that was like, I basically convinced them that it was fine because I could get my money back out of them. I'm like, it's kind of like a collector thing. And they didn't really get it. And then I started going to sneaker shows, and it was like, and I'd come home and I told them the story, like my first sneaker show. So like the first sneaker show I went to, I had probably 50 pairs of shoes and $200 cash. I walked out with like 55 pairs of shoes and $2,500.
Yeah.
And that was like the day that I realized, I'm like, oh, like I can actually like make this a business. Like this is like, it was just like a great awakening.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, like there's actually something here. And then I tell my grandparents about that, and they're like, really? And you could tell like it kind of like sparked their interest. They're like, you did that in a day?
Yeah.
And it becomes one of those things. And then like I had a show, Washington D.C. in 2019, and like that show was it was a 2-day show, Saturday and Sunday. Went on Saturday, sold like 80 pairs of shoes on Saturday. It was $14,000.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is a business now.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it's like, so like at that point I'm like, well, and then I ended up that was in like October, and all that money went back out by the end of the year buying more shoes. I'm like, because I kind of got to a point, I'm like, shoot, I might have to claim this on my taxes this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up getting everything back out. But it was just like, that was like the day that I'm like, I think I can actually like use this as a business now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the one thing that I never do is kind of backtracking a bit, but I never promoted myself outside of like just posting it. Like I've never had somebody else promote my stuff, because I just like feel like I need to build it on my own, and I need to be able to grab the attention of people on my own.
There's definitely like, there's a pride, I guess, that's like, oh yeah, like I'm proud that I was able to do this myself.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just gotta swallow your pride and be like, well, like what's it worth?
Yeah.
Like, cause like honestly, like even if like, I mean, a lot of people are different, they think different or whatever, and like me personally, I'm like, well, if I had to pay for, like I was planning on, like if I do sign a lease and open a store, like I'm probably gonna run Facebook ads, and like, is that like, for me, is that worth it as a business investment? Yes. I mean, do I want like my friends and family seeing my business on there as a sponsored ad? Like, does that look good to them? I'm like, there's just a lot of questions that you could ask yourself. And it's like, I want my friends and family to share it and like share my business and like promote it. So like, what's the difference between me running a Facebook ad and them promoting it for me?
Yeah.
So you kind of, it's like one of those things, it's like, find a balance again. It's like, it obviously from a business perspective, it might be worth it, but do you personally feel the benefit from that?
Yeah. That's another thing, the reason why, I guess there's like reasons for both. Like for me, like I see a lot of people, they have like a YouTube channel, or they have a SoundCloud, or they have some type of, I wouldn't even say business, but they have like a business endeavor. Yeah. And they're promoting it and promoting it and promoting it, and I'm seeing like, this is kind of annoying, and is it really quality? Like I want my podcast to be known for what it is. You know, I don't want everybody shouting it out, because that's not what it's like based on.
Yeah, and there's like, I feel like there's like a certain, I don't know, behind everything there has to be like some soul behind it.
Yeah.
So that's why I see a lot of people, for example, like selling shoes. There's a lot of people that just get into it because they're like, oh, like I can make good money off this.
Yeah, that's what I don't want it to look like.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, I thought about starting a YouTube channel before, and when I thought about starting a YouTube channel, I watched a video on how much do YouTubers make, and I'm like, they make good money. I'm like, not only like I think this would be enjoyable, but I'd also make good money doing it. So it's like, then you look at it like, oh wait, am I just doing this for the money?
Yeah.
Like, so it's one of those things. It's like yeah, it's really, I don't know. It's hard to like put a finger on it.
Yeah. But also, I think about, would it be as good if I was making money doing what I'm doing now? Yeah. Would it be as good, or is it gonna take some time to build this up, and it's gonna be like the best thing ever?
Yeah, and it's like, there's a lot of things that are just like passion projects, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me personally, like I do eventually want to have a YouTube channel. I eventually want to do like something like this where I sit down and like we can like debate something, whether like no matter what that person is into. Like I feel like I'm very passionate about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So I feel like I would have a really good time doing it, and maybe eventually, like if I'm passionate enough about it, if I put enough time into it, like I might be able to make money off of it too.
Yeah.
So
that's where I'm at. Like I'm not looking for the money, but if the money comes,
Exactly,
Yeah.
because like at the end of the day, you're like, if you get to make money doing what you love, that's, I mean, what's better than that?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with shoes, because like at this point in my life, like I love it. Like I love everything that I have to do with it. Like, and I feel like I'm not making a ton of money off of it,
Yeah.
but like I feel like that there's a sustainable business behind it if I put the pieces together right. I guess
That's also, I think what you're getting at is the reward from building something, like not having it all handed to you. That's where I guess my pride takes in place.
Yeah.
But because like I don't want to feel like I'm getting all these followers and getting all these views from somebody just handing them to me, basically.
Yeah.
Like I want to earn it myself.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I mean, with YouTube is especially like, cause like I feel like the longest journey is like the first 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Like once you get some traction and once you get like friends promoting you in it, or like if you make friends with like YouTubers and stuff, like that's when you really start growing.
Yeah.
But like those first 1,000 subscribers is like, I mean, it probably feels like an eternity.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I haven't been doing this one, like it hasn't been a year. It's like 9-10 months now, I
gotcha.
think. So I have like 30 subscribers. You know, that's not a lot, but
That's the thing. It's like 30 subscribers may not seem like much, but looking back when you were at 9, it seems like a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah.
It's like I made it to this point now. Like, what's next?
Yeah. So I'm trying to do some things like in the next couple months that I'm going to improve the quality. I'm going to improve like certain aspects of it. I guess.
Yeah.
There's going to be more to it than just what it is now.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean that's definitely. It's one of those things. It's like you don't want to like rush and start doing a bunch of different things like right off the bat.
Yeah.
You kind of just want it to come to you naturally, and that's in my opinion, the nice thing about YouTube is like there isn't pressure on like someone like you to thrive right away.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to drop. You could drop 300 videos before you hit 100 subscribers.
Yeah.
Like that's okay. Like you're learning.
Yeah.
And then once you find it out and like once you see what works for you, then like that's when you see the growth.
Yeah.
So and that's like a lot of things in life. Like there's no pressure to fail, especially like at our age. Like you can go out and try whatever you want, and it's like if you fail, like it's a setback.
Next 40, 50, 60 years to fix it.
It's a setback, but at the same time, like you just got to remember, like, hey, 20 years from now, I wouldn't even be able to take this risk because like I wouldn't be able to provide for my family if I did this.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to. It's one of those things. It's like you got to realize that you're actually in a really good position right now, and like there's a lot that you can make happen from this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's with any business.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you said that.
It's one of those things. It's like
outlook.
it's definitely where like I mean, and honestly like the year in general, like this is a perfect time for people to like take a risk on a business because if it doesn't work out, like you can fall back and get a job. It's not like I mean, unemployment isn't through the roof, but like it's also not like I mean, there's not it's attainable. Yeah, like you're like and if they introduce a $15 minimum wage, there's going to be a lot of small businesses that struggle to stay open.
Yeah.
So, or, I mean, they're going to be cutting staff. Like, that's a whole nother thing to get into. But you got to look at it. Like, if you're going to take a risk on the business, like, I mean, right now is a pretty good time to do it.
Yeah.
So, at least in my opinion, it is.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not a big economics guy or anything like that, but like it just feels to me it feels like at this point in my life that
the right time.
Yeah, at this point in my life and at this point in the economy, like I mean I just feel like it's a good time to build a business.
Yeah, I posted a quote I think this past week. I think it was this past week, but it was a quote from a book that I read by Warren Buffett a few years ago. And he said that the best investment you can make is in yourself. And I was like, well, that's weird because he has all these investments in like millions of things and, you know, he's a billionaire, like one of the richest men in the world.
Yeah.
And you're like, so the best thing to invest in is myself? Are you sure it's not stocks or land or anything like that? And it's like, I guess that makes sense. So I've just been trying to invest in myself in
well, the thing is, like,
ways.
you have to start somewhere. Like, even with stocks, like, I was talking to my buddies about this, and it's like, for me personally, like, I don't get into stocks right now because I don't have the money to put into it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I could put $500 in there, but I mean, even with $500 in there, like, what am I gonna do? Make a couple $100? And the time I put into it, yeah, I'm gonna learn something while I'm there.
It's investing in yourself.
Yeah, you're investing. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, for me, I feel like I want to get to a point where I'm making good money. Then I'll open like a Roth IRA, contribute the max to that, and just kind of like let that be my, like, that's how I invest. I invest through my Roth. I do long-term investing. And I think I might have told you before, like, my cousin does like day trading and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I want to do that. Don't get me wrong. I want to make $4,000 in a day.
I've looked into that too. I'm like,
yeah, like, I want to make good money in a day, but do I really want to put in all the time or all the losses into like getting to that point?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot. So I don't want to like be like, oh yeah, I'm never gonna do that. But down the road, I could see myself doing that. It's just at the moment, I'm just like, I'm gonna stick to what I know. If I can open a store, that would be great. And if I can build like a community around a store, it would be great.
Yeah.
But I don't want to take the time to go invest.
Yeah, that's the thing. You also have to take money. That's one, like, you have to have money.
Yeah, and it honestly, like, it's not, like, for me personally, like, the way I am with my business, like, all my stuff's reinvested.
Yeah.
So it's not, like, I'm never really sitting on a bunch of money. It always seems like, I mean, like, I might have a couple thousand at one time, but like all of a sudden next week a package deal pops up that it's like, oh, I just went and spent $2,500. So like, and it's just, and honestly, it's nonstop and it's pretty exhausting. Like at this point, it's kind of exhausting, and that's why I kind of want a store so I can get to a point where like I can like build the store and get to the point where I want to be inventory wise quicker. Yeah. And that way I can start like having like, okay, I have a consistent business now. Like I can afford to take some money out of the company. I can afford to pay myself. Yeah. Because like at this point, like, I mean, I might buy myself a pair of shoes or something every once in a while, but it's never anything like substantial.
Yeah. I look at a lot of things as, it's kind of bad. Like I never really like treat myself to something that I really want. Like I always look at, oh, is this something that I can make money off of? Or is this something that I can sell for a good amount or make money potentially? Yeah,
and I've started like, I have I buy cars like every once in a while, just like if I come across a good deal on something, I'll just buy it and usually flip it. But like right now I got a 2013 Ford Focus ST, and it's high mileage, like 198,000 miles. I bought it for like $5,000. Runs and drives good, looks good. I'm like, be able to flip it. Like it's been slow recently because like, I mean, nobody's buying a front wheel drive sports car in the winter. Yeah. So like once spring comes around, then like it'll sell, but it's just one of those things. It's like, it's kind of sucks sitting on that on top of sitting on my sneaker inventory. Yeah. Because it's just like, and then I have my I bought that 2001 BMW M3. That I kind of like, I bought it as like kind of a project, and it's turned into way more of a project than I was expecting it to be. Yeah. So I kind of want to sell the Focus so I can put the money into my BMW and just get that done. But it's like, it's one of those things like, the more like hobbies you have, it's like, it's never ending.
You know what's crazy? I'm similar to you in that I take on different projects. Yeah. But someday, if those projects never, you never end up doing them, we're going to be those old guys with just a bunch of junk.
Oh, I guarantee that's where I'm going to be. Like, not a doubt in my mind that there's probably going to be 10 to 15 old pickup trucks or Suburbans or something like that.
1,000 pairs of shoes laying in the basement.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll get to that point with the shoes. I hope I don't. I might collect shoes.
You'll have a little collection.
I probably will have a collection, but I don't want to get to the hoarder point. Yeah. With cars, I don't really care. Honestly, like, because old cars, they hold their value well enough, and there's a lot of, like...
And at some point, they gain more value.
Yeah, and like, the kind of cars that I'm into, if that's the thing, I was actually telling my dad yesterday, I'm like, if I had $1 million right now, I don't think I'd ever lose it, because all the cars that I want right now, like, I'd probably buy, if I had $1 million, I'd probably buy, like, 6 or 7 different cars, and of those, I'd say 5 of them are very, like 90s sports cars and stuff like that aren't seeing appreciation quite yet. Yeah. Some of them are, like a 300ZX twin turbo is like that car went up a lot when COVID hit. S2000s, Honda S2000s have gone crazy since COVID hit. and that's a car that I actually almost bought one 4 years ago for $5,500, and I couldn't touch a broken one for like 9 now. Like
Yeah, that's
it's ridiculous. Yeah, like if you have something like the one I was gonna buy, it needed a new front bumper cover, and I was gonna pay the kid $5,500 for it, which was a good deal at the time. Like don't get me wrong, it's probably like $1,500 less than what it's worth. I mean, I could probably thrown a bumper cover on it and made $2,000 on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I was like, yeah, like I'll buy this. Ended up the deal fell through because I kind of got screwed over by him. But now looking back at that, I'm like, that car is probably worth 12 now.
Yeah.
And it's like that I would have literally doubled my money if I'd have bought that car 2 years
You just
ago.
held on to it for a little
And
bit.
and the thing is, I would have drove it. I could have drove it. I could have put miles on it and still still doubled my money on it.
Yeah, that's I wonder how much like old Broncos went up since they released
Old
the
Broncos
new ones.
but the thing is, even before they released the new ones, they were selling like crazy.
They were.
Yeah, like I think Joe Rogan has a Bronco.
I don't
Maybe
know.
or no, it's Jay Leno has one.
Oh.
He has a Bronco with like a newer Mustang motor swapped into it, and they put like a 5-speed tranny in it, and that is like, I mean, it's a badass car, but if you put that on the market, that's probably $130,000 truck. Like
Yeah.
it's up there. Even like the clean, like the restored ones, like that's like they call those resto mods.
Yeah.
But like even like the clean restored ones that are like you're still looking at like 50-60 grand probably.
Yeah. What made them jump? Like, what was the thing that...
Just
the
nostalgia.
rarity?
Well, it's like the nostalgia of cars is really what drives that.
Yeah.
Just because like if you think about it, like the cars that, so for example, right now the cars that are like starting to go up are like the S2000s are really popular. Like that's a car that came out in 2000,
So
2001.
It's basically the people
So-
that got those when they were young.
Well, if you had the posters of the cars on your wall, that's usually once those people get in like they're like late 30s and stuff like that. Like once they come into money,
Yeah.
that's usually
Yeah.
when they start buying them. And luckily, like I feel like I'm gonna get to that point before most people in my generation will. But then again, I have a super weird taste for cars.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. It's like I'm probably gonna end up having cars from there's cars from the 70s I want. There's cars from the 80s I want. Tons of cars from the 90s that I want, and then a few cars from the 2000s that I want. And it's one of those things is like, if I can get those sooner, then I know it'll be a good investment. But honestly, even if they end up going up double, triple price, like
Yeah.
there's some of them that I probably wouldn't let go of.
Yeah.
So definitely eventually want to get to a point where I can get myself some cars though.
Yeah. I've never really been into much cars.
Yeah, I just feel like you said with like hoarding and stuff, like if there's something I would hoard, it would definitely be cars.
Yeah.
But no, I really don't want to get to that point with shoes. I wouldn't mind having like a nice personal collection, but I just kind of like, I don't like the clutter of having a ton of shoes. Like I have like probably 300 pairs of shoes in my basement right now. It's just annoying. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, like I'm sorry, like I want to put a couch down here and hang out with my buddies. Like I'm kind of tired of having all this shit.
Yeah.
But and then like with vintage stuff, like I'll probably have like a nice little like archive of vintage stuff, just because like especially if I do end up opening a store, like, and I'm like very passionate about it myself.
Yeah.
So like I feel like that's definitely something like probably like late 90s tees. Like, because right now, like the way vintage is, like 90s tees can kind of range, like depending on what it is. But like if you have like a late 90s sports t-shirt or crew neck, like you're looking at like $15 to $25.
Yeah.
But in like another 15 years, I mean that stuff could be $50.
Yeah.
It just depends, really. But like vintage, it's a super weird market. Like I'm still learning a lot about
Yeah,
it.
it is weird.
But like there's certain stuff like old band tees, which don't get me wrong, like they're cool. But like there's certain band tees that are like $5,000 tees, like $1,000 tees.
It's weird
like,
to see what drives those prices. Like some things I'm like, how is that even like?
What's funny because like you'll see people wearing them that don't know. They're just like, oh yeah, like I love this band growing up, so I still have this shirt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and they'll be wearing a $500 t-shirt and not even know it. So like it's like, yeah, the whole vintage thing is crazy, and I really think that it's just getting like popular again.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, like the way trends are, especially in like fashion, it's like 20 to 30 year cycles.
Yeah.
So like it really would make sense that like the way vintage is, like usually you're looking at 20 to 30-year-old clothing. Like that would make perfect sense if vintage is like pretty popular for a while.
Yeah.
Because like those trends are just repeating themselves, and like you're gonna look back 20 years, like 20 years from now, you're probably gonna look back and be like, damn, 2020 was like, that was a wild year. Like I want something from 2020 to wear.
Yeah.
So
save your clothes, basically.
well, I mean, if you think it's worth it, save your clothes for 20 to 30 years.
You know, that might be a good retirement fund right there.
I mean, it could be, but
depending on what you wear.
It just the thing is, I feel like it's kind of gotten to a point now where there's already people like, there's vaults of clothing like from like 5 years ago that people are just like, oh yeah, like I found this at a thrift. It's like 5 to 10 years old, but like I'll throw it in a box and like 10 to 15 years from now it'll be worth something.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I at least I think that there's probably many people doing that, especially people who are like have the vintage stores and stuff now.
I think even businesses, it would be smart for them to just hold on to their old products.
See, it's so the thing is, it gets expensive.
Yeah.
Especially for like someone like let's say Nike was gonna hold on to their inventory, like their bulk inventory, like the cost that's gonna go into that for like to hold on to it for like 10 years.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it. Like,
you don't think so?
The thing is, they'd rather it's better for them to dump it at outlets while it's still trendy, and make a percentage of their money, rather than to pay for storage, put it in vaults and stuff, and then when you pull it back out, you got flawed products. You got like, you know what I'm saying, from stuff sitting. So there's like, for them, it's just way smarter if they just move it on discount and just get rid of it.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, a lot of people like, I mean, actually the one guy I know that sells shoes, he does clothing too, and like he does like, it's like discounted stuff. So like he'll buy stuff at like 20 to 30% of retail, 20 to 40% I should say, and then like he's selling it at like 60 to 80% of retail. So like he's working like everything's below retail, but he's got decent margins down there too.
Yeah.
And then he does like the same thing with like clothing with that, like in that range too, like.
Well, also I think for businesses it wouldn't be smart because they can just remake the clothes.
Yeah.
Like, they can just release that product.
That's the thing,
again.
and like for a company like Nike, like they have the patent on it, and it doesn't cost them. The thing is, it doesn't cost them enough to reproduce it.
Yeah.
Like if you like you think about a T-shirt, like maybe they're paying $2-3 for a T-shirt.
Oh, way down. I would say like cents.
Really? Like I mean, because the thing is, I'm just thinking like blank T-shirts. Like usually you're ordering blank T-shirts, you're paying like.
But then
like
they're
two
probably
to
making their
$5.
own.
Yeah, they're making their own. So, I mean, yeah, I'd say probably a couple bucks. But like, if for it to be that cheap, it's not worth them like holding on to inventory.
Yeah, I don't even know. I wouldn't. Well, it depends. Are you talking about like all like the cost to pay somebody to sit there and make it and everything?
Yeah, what would a shirt cost? Like, total cost to Nike before it gets shipped to like a store. It's probably a couple bucks.
I wouldn't say that much.
I don't see it being that much cheaper.
Well, you think they're probably making
thousands of them, yeah,
by the hour.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a lot cheaper than that.
$1.50.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's probably a fair price.
We'll just agree on $1.50. Because like
I don't know. Is that even like? Can you search that information?
I'm sure that like, well, the thing is, there's the one what was it? There was like a presentation somewhere that they were showing like what a shoe costs.
Yeah. And
then like what like retail value is.
Yeah.
And then what resale value is. So it was a shoe that costs like $10 from the factory.
Yeah.
And like Nike sells it for $160, and then like on the aftermarket it sells for $500.
Yeah, so profits
like
insane.
Well, like Nike's profits, like nothing crazy, but like 100. Well, the thing is, you gotta understand with Nike is like they send pairs to stores. Stores are paying like 30 to 40% of the retail price, and then like when Nike sells stuff on their own, obviously, then they're not paying, like they're not selling it all for wholesale. They're selling it for full retail.
Yeah.
But they have contracts and stuff with stores that they got to give them those good shoes because the stores are taking on their not as good shoes too.
Yeah.
So it's Nike's definitely it's crazy to think about that. That's like, oh yeah, like let's say a Jordan 1's releasing in a store, like even though they're sending out this many of them, they're still making like 40, $50 a pair.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's a lot of money.
Or you think of how many people have Nike on their feet.
Yeah, and don't
Or
get
in
me
their
wrong,
closet.
there's research and development, but when you're releasing a shoe from 1985
Yeah.
and there ain't much to do differently,
Yeah.
I mean, you're still like I said, like you're paying $10 to $12 probably all in, and then you calculate shipping and stuff, which is very minimal
Yeah.
considering you're shipping so many of them.
Yeah. Quantity.
But yeah.
But anyways, I gotta get out of here soon.
All right.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I was just
Had a great time.
I just looked at the time and I was like, whoa.
I
I gotta
you're
go
good.
pick up a fridge.
Oh, got you. All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, man.